Hey guys, today I want to talk about stereotypes and scratch the surface of why they're so problematic. I'm sure right off the top of your head you can think of stereotypes you've heard about genders, ethnicities, and cultures without thinking for too long. We've all heard them, but I believe that the educated among us should not just hear them and apply them to the world around us, because they can be very harmful to the people they impact. Sure, I can think of stereotypes around something like age that can be useful. For example, to decide at what age it would be appropriate to take on certain responsibilities or to have certain experiences or access or privileges. Things like driving, like tobacco, alcohol, like voting, like joining the military. Stereotypes around age. Around 18, most people are mature enough to decide if they want to join the military, but many aren't. So, okay, it's a stereotype, it applies to most people, not true for everyone, but it's become a rule. But the stereotypes that I've heard around ethnicity, race, and religion have historically been used as tools of oppression, and that's why we should choose not to perpetuate them. You might think it's harmless to internalize stereotypes, but remember that discourse informs people, and some of those people are the same people that create policies that govern our lives. I think there's a narcissistic root to the reason that most people don't stereotype themselves and the groups they belong to, but often stereotype groups they don't belong to, because everyone knows that they're an individual, but not everyone recognizes that so is every other person in the world. It's logical to understand that oneself is a complex, unique, and dynamic individual, and every individual recognizes that he or she does not share every characteristic with every other person in their group, but then why would anyone else? In my opinion, accepting sexist, racist, classist, or any other kind of stereotype makes people sound very uneducated. It's an immediate moral red flag for me. Nothing makes me retreat into my turtle shell in a social gathering more than hearing someone drop a super ignorant stereotype. For this example, I'll use gender. Like, you're just standing at a party and you hear guys say like, girls are so easy, or girls are so thirsty, or the only thing women care about is finding a boyfriend or a husband. And then the opposite is true. You'll hear women say, men are pigs, or men are dogs, or whatever animal they mean to insult them with, or they'll say, men just want one thing, or men only care about themselves. And I can probably think of 100 more for both genders. All of these stereotypes are insulting, but more than just insulting, they're robbing each individual of the opportunity to assert who they are. If I had $1 for every time I've been told, wow, I didn't realize you're smart, or you don't look smart, I would have at least $100, because I've encountered at least that many people who believe that women that take care of their appearance or that like look good are usually dumb. I think of these types of stereotypes as shortcuts for people who lack intellectual curiosity, because it's much easier to adopt sweeping generalizations to construct an understanding of the world than it is to actually make an effort to open your mind and learn for yourself. It's easier to take what someone else told you than to learn for yourself. This is why we often find that families and social groups share the same stereotypes about others, because they're passed around, and too often without questioning. You'll hear stereotypes within certain groups about groups those people have never met. One of my friends from back home told me that when he went to college, and he was my friend's dad, so he was like in his 40s, but he told me that when he went to college, someone on his floor was like, oh, you're Jewish? And he was like, yeah. And the guy was like, oh, well, I heard that Jews have horns, so you're not Jewish. Did you ever meet one? Who told you that? Why did you accept it? Who told you that humans could grow horns? I don't know, there's so many things that are problematic about that, but entire groups so often have stereotypes about groups they've never even been associated with a person from that group, so it's completely unfounded. For example, in Middle Eastern culture, I take issue with the rampant beliefs that women are frivolous, that women are easy to control, that they're super vulnerable and they rely on men for protection and street smarts, that they're not assertive. Because if every single one of those things was true, then I wouldn't fit into the description of a woman at all. I wouldn't be part of a female demographic because I'm so assertive, like I'm assertive to a fault. And there's nothing not feminine about that. I recognize that these stereotypes also have insidious roots. So the insidious roots come from the fact that the stereotypes inform discourse, and the discourse informs policies that give women fewer rights under the guise that they're not suited to the same types of adult responsibilities that men are. These stereotypes work against female liberties by contributing to the common perception that women need to be monitored, which is especially interesting to me because women are expected in Middle Eastern culture most of the time to perform the lion's share of the domestic home responsibilities. That to me is a glaring contradiction in thought, because if children are the single most precious thing in the world, then why would you entrust small-minded, frivolous, irresponsible individuals with the task of raising them? And I think that's because everyone quietly understands that they are neither irresponsible nor frivolous. That discourse, those stereotypes, just keep women at home doing all of the unpaid labor, and now usually after paid jobs as well. And actively fighting that stereotype that women are irresponsible and that they can't be left unsupervised and that they're not street smart. So fighting that stereotype, if you think about it, would cost men some of their leisure time, because it would have women out of the home more and doing more things in the public space, so there would be more to do at home. And that would cut into the leisure time of the people perpetuating the stereotype, so it's not in their best interest to fight it. Like, chew on that and let me know what you think in the comments below, because it drives me nuts. So another thing I want to talk about is positive stereotyping. So some people say that there are flattering stereotypes, but really the act of stereotyping in general is a counterproductive practice because the concept is exactly the same. Even when the idea is positive, you're still defining a person by their belonging to a certain group rather than giving them the opportunity to be an individual. I'm sure you've heard the stereotype that gay men are stylish and take impeccable care of themselves, but they're beautiful. Sure, I can't think of anyone who, if told you're beautiful and stylish, wouldn't take it as a compliment, but think of the pressure and expectation that puts on gay men who don't take impeccable care of themselves, who aren't stylish, or who maybe don't feel beautiful. If you accepted the stereotype that they should be, you might meet someone who isn't and find him disappointing, because he didn't measure up to the stereotype that you put on him without him knowing. Also, if he internalized the stereotype himself, he might feel inadequate. Another example of a positive stereotype, I had a close friend growing up who was from South Korea. She would always introduce herself as a dumb Asian. I didn't understand why she did that when we were young, but looking back on it now, it's obvious. She was saying that she's a dumb Asian to combat the expectation from people that she would be so book smart just because she's Asian. In my opinion, she wasn't dumb at all. She was objectively way above average, but she understood that Asian people are stereotyped often to be super, super intelligent. So she would tell people right up front that she wasn't, as sort of a defense mechanism in case she fell short of their expectations of her. It's like an insurance policy. Oh, well, if you think that you've definitely heard all black people are athletic. Okay, if you met anyone in the world and you tell them they're athletic, they're gonna say thanks. But let's say that you're a black girl and you don't play sports, or you suck at sports, you're gonna feel like you're inadequate for some reason, and you're not. You're not any more inadequate than any person from any other ethnicity that sucks at sports. You're just a person that sucks at sports. If you're trying to think of some more. There's so many. I'm sure we can think of so many positive stereotypes. Like, oh, Jewish people are good at managing money. There's also like a negative side of that one too, but that stereotype. So, okay, they're all successful. They're all doctors and lawyers, and it's like, okay, well, what if you're not? It doesn't make you any less adequate than anyone else. Positive stereotypes are still stereotypes, and they force people into a certain kind of identity. So I want you to challenge stereotypes, both positive and, of course, negative. And the only way that you can challenge stereotypes is to make an effort to identify them, because I don't think we're even always aware of all the stereotypes that we've internalized, because some of them are just kind of seeping into us based on our exposure. So we have to try to identify them. When you find your brain assuming information about someone that you don't yet know well, or when you find your brain filling in blanks that you don't yet have the answers to, ask yourself whether that person actually demonstrated that quality, or if your brain just auto-filled the blanks based on what you've heard about people within his or her group. When you identify what you filled in, examine that narrative and challenge it. When you hear other people drop stereotypes, respectfully challenge them too. It's not disrespectful to have debates about these kinds of things. If anything, you're just making an initial effort to elevate someone else to a more realistic, fair, and nuanced way of thinking. Because if we all actively challenge stereotypes, think about how quickly they would begin fading out. This helps, but I think the ultimate best thing we can do is get to know people from all gender, ethnic, and cultural categories until our stereotypes come crumbling down on their own. I believe that the only fair way to deal with people is to give each individual the dignity of a blank slate. So that's all I have for today. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel as I post a new video almost every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. More talk to come soon. Almost said girl talk. More talk to come soon. Bye for now.